Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Thank you for everyone out there tuning in to us. It's 2 minutes away from 10 o'clock. We're here until midnight. We've had a fantastic show so far. Pete Shepard from WEEI, Jerry Coleman from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore, and so much more. Radio Mike from Kew Garden Hills, Andy Gershman, Alan Shlomo Weingrad, former Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys, John Sharon, the head coach of the Tel-Aviv Sabres, who are 7-0. So fantastic show. We're here until midnight. In a few minutes, we'll have Dmitriy Salita. We'll then have on Brandon McDougal, the star running back of the Tel-Aviv Sabres, 7-time Emmy Award winner Jim Williams, and we will wrap up the show with Brin-Jonathan Butler. Brin, of course, wrote a great article for ESPN, and his boxer, Rigondo, who is doing a documentary on called Split Decision, has a huge fight coming up. That has been finalized. That has been in the works, and that's going to come to fruition. It's a huge fight. We will save that. We will tease that. So to make sure you will listen to Brin-Jonathan Butler. You should listen to him anyway, really. Brin's one of the most talented, funny interviews I have, period. I've done about 5,000 interviews. I always look forward to Brin coming on. So that's at 11:30 p.m. Again, we're here until midnight, and we appreciate everyone tuning in to Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. If you're listening to us on TuneIn Radio or Wonder Radio, go over to our website, IsraelSportsRadio.com, and click on the store tab. We have great items such as T-shirts, hats, books, and yarmulkes with your favorite team on them. Price does include shipping, and we do ship throughout the entire world. So that's the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab. Again, thank you for everyone for tuning in to us. And again, this fight coming up with Dmitriy Salita against Hector Camacho Jr., this is, in my opinion, Dmitriy's biggest fight since his title shot against Amir Khan. And the reason why I say that is because it's on national television. As I mentioned, he's on the undercard of a big fight. And I feel like, he's 5-0 in his comeback since the title shot. And this will really put him up back on a higher stage, get him more opportunities, and eventually get him that chance again. He had that fight, that title shot, when he was 27 years old. On the line right now, great privilege and honor to have on Dmitriy.
Please record.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, looks like we have some issues here. Actually, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break, try to set this up here. We apologize about that. Again, things are a bit hectic. Dmitriy has a very intense schedule. So give us a few minutes here to set this up. On the other side, we should have on Dmitriy Salita. This is Lewis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
All right, folks, back here on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. I believe we have everything squared away. We're going to try Dmitriy right now. Again, Dmitriy, very, very busy with his training, and we really appreciate the time he's taken out of his schedule to come talk to us. You don't always get interviews with boxers this close to a fight, but Dmitriy is such a friend of Lewis Live and Israel Sports Radio. Has helped me in a lot of different areas. On the line right now, big thrill, big privilege, big honor to have on Dmitriy Salita. Dmitriy, welcome back to Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be on the show.
Again, great stuff. I also want to take this time to thank you personally in front of everyone listening for all the help. You've helped me on a personal level, all the different requests I've asked from you. You're very busy, and you're able to do it anyways. Just a tremendous honor. So, again, thank you so much.
No problem. It's always a pleasure.
Let's get right into this fight. As I said before you came on the program, this fight against Hector Camacho Jr., I actually think this is the biggest fight since Amir Khan because he has a name because of his father. This fight will be on Showtime. You're going to be on national TV. So talk about that you're undefeated in your fights since in your comeback trail, but this is a step up in competition, in my opinion. Camacho Jr., great endurance, great jab, he's got a great punch. So talk about you're going up to a higher level competition. What things have you done in your training to prepare to fight Hector Camacho Jr.?
Yeah, Hector Camacho is a very good fighter. You know, he won several titles, not a world titles, but several, regional and international titles. He was, ranked number 1 in the world, and he beat some really good fighters in his career. So it's definitely a step up. It's definitely a very meaningful fight. I know that he's very motivated with the passing of his father. And all the reports that I've been getting about his training camp is that he's taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
And that he's getting himself in shape to put on a good fight. I myself have been in Detroit, getting really good sparring and really good training, and very focused for this fight as well. I see this as a great opportunity for me. It's a fight that would put me back into the mix with the big guys, I want to have a victory and look impressive. And I know that Camacho, while he lives in Puerto Rico, but he's really from New York, and there's a big Puerto Rican population here in New York that supports him, and that are behind his father. So and obviously I have my support, fan support as well. So it's going to be a very exciting fight. I think it's the crowd is going to be involved on it from both sides, and that's what boxing needs. I'm very excited, and it should be a great show.
It's one of those things where it's very interesting because of his father passing away. My understanding is they weren't that close, but it's still his father, and he's going to be motivated. It's his first fight since his father's murder, and he's going to dedicate to his father, I'm sure. That's this extra energy that you have to deal with. Have you and your camp and your trainers talked about how to deal with that extra energy? Maybe it's something that comes on a bit early, or maybe later in the fight he's tired and he thinks about his father and sums up some courage, some energy. So has that actually been talked about during your training camp?
Actually, interesting thing is that before my pro debut, I was in training camp with him and with his father in Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
And I actually boxed with him, and I boxed with his father on several different occasions because we were trained by the same trainer for a couple of years. So, I have a relationship with them, actually. It goes back quite a while. But, I use really good quality sparring partners. And I'm an experienced guy. Excitement can be good for you, it can be bad for you. So I'm just focused. I'm going to be as excited as he's going to be. I'm going to be very focused, and I just pray that I stay healthy and that the training camp continues to go on track, and that everything goes as well as it has. So the kind of what seems to be like the sad part now is that the whole show got postponed because of Danny Garcia's injury.
That's right.
So I'm not sure yet as to exactly what date my fight is going to end up on. They moved the whole show to April 27th. I'm still not 100% sure that my fight is going to be on that show, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I mean, again, that's got to be extremely frustrating because you're training and preparing and everything. And if you have to wait, how does that work? Does training just kind of halt, and then you pick it back up later? Or, since you're in such great shape, you want to then continue at this shape and do camp again? I mean, what scheduling-wise, logistically, how will that work for you?
I found out about this Sunday night and then got confirmation about it Monday. I still went to the gym on Monday. I was in Detroit, and Tuesday I came back home. So, I'm back home in New York now. I'm going to take a couple of days to relax, but I'm going to continue training, not as intensely as I did before, because I don't know what my date is going to be yet, and I really don't want to overtrain myself because I was really, just a couple of days from peaking. But I want to continue to do my physical conditioning and my strength training program, which I'm going to hopefully start doing again this week. And we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, the fight is going to be sooner than April 27th. And if that's the case, then we'll make the proper training arrangements. And I'm going to head back out to Detroit and get back to the program.
Now, if it is April 27th, would you still be on a card that will put you on Showtime or national TV or some other thing where people could see you fight that maybe haven't seen you fight in the past and put you on another higher level where you can get more attention and then later on get another title shot?
I'm not sure because with television timing and Shabbos being over a little bit later, a lot later actually, because it's daylight saving time is going to change.
Right.
So I'm not sure exactly what logistical changes are going to happen, and I think the Golden Boy is also trying to sort everything out. I'm sure it's a big change for them as well. So and this just happened a couple of days ago. Not sure yet of exactly how it's going to look. But, as soon as I have a date, I'll continue my preparations. I've been training for a really long time for this, and, you don't just get out of shape just, in a day or in a week. If anything, when you take a couple of days off, it strengthens you, kind of recharge the battery, and get back stronger and better, and hopefully that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and let's talk about Golden Boy, contacting you. Oscar, for those who don't know, that's Oscar De La Hoya's company, so that's big, big stuff. And they promoted fighters from Floyd Mayweather Jr. and on and on and on. What did that mean to you that they wanted you to be a part of their card, part of their show, and be, deal with Golden Boy? What did that mean to you when they contacted you?
Well, this is my third fight with Golden Boy, and I fought on the October 20th show, which was the opening of the Butler Arena, of this new arena in Brooklyn, the home of the now Brooklyn Nets. And, it's a great honor to work with such a great, powerful company. And they really do a good job and very professional. So, so far it's been a great experience. And obviously it's a great honor to be part of such big show and to fight a big name like that. To be on national television, so it's been good stuff, and I'm hungry to get my big wins in the fight for the world title, and seems like I'm with the right people that'll push me in that direction.
Now, this fight, whenever if it's going to take place, whenever it does, Hector Camacho Jr. To my understanding, is fights in the southpaw. How have you prepared? Have you done southpaw training to prepare against fighting a lefty?
Yes, I've had all southpaw boxing for the whole month of January. I boxed Luis Cavazo, who's a former welterweight world champion. He's also getting ready for a fight with Eric De Leon, who's just turned professional, but he's a 5 or 7 time national champion. Also very, very talented boxer. So yeah, did a lot of boxing with southpaw. It's definitely a different look, and Camacho is a slickster. He's a slick guy, but I fought a couple of southpaws in my career, and all successful. It will be challenging, but I'm getting good work, and I've been showing good results in the gym, and hopefully they'll transfer to the fight.
All right. Now, I know when we kind of spoke via Facebook, your plan was to come to Israel around February. Is that going to be delayed because the fight could go as far as April, or are you going to come to Israel and then fight? What is the latest in your planning?
Yeah, I don't have an exact date for my Israel trip yet. And, sometimes, the boxing schedule is unpredictable. I definitely would love to come to Israel. After people have their big victory, they say, I want to go to Disneyland, or, I want to go to Israel.
Right. That'd be awesome, right. That'd be great.
And, I every time I go, I visit different boxing clubs, Jerusalem Boxing Club, Maccabi Tel-Aviv, a couple of other places. And, I would love to continue to form a connection with them and hopefully help them in any way that I can. I think amateur boxing, first of all, I think Israel has a lot of potential for amateur boxing. And I also think that amateur boxing, serves as a great after school activity, as a great tool for young people to use up their energy in a positive way, even if they don't become boxers. And most people are not going to become boxers.
Right. Exactly.
So I support it any way I can. And actually, I promoted a boxing event here in New York a couple of months ago, and we raised some money and I sent some equipment to Jerusalem Boxing Club. that was a good thing.
Yeah, and their Jerusalem Boxing Club is right down the street for our studio, and I've been in there a few times, and people there are very nice, and that's tremendous that you've done that, and I'm obviously very thankful for that. You know, it's interesting because all this that comes up all of a sudden, you have to go on a whim. Do you kind of feel like you're being tested, meaning you thought you're going to get this fight February 9th, and now you know it's kind of like a champion. Before he's champion, has to be tested with a bunch of different things, whether it's defeat or patience or waiting. Do you kind of look as this is just another step, another thing I have to roll through before I get another title shot?
Well, you know, man, I gotta tell you, I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my career. You know, most stuff people don't know about, but it's been really tough. And you know, I have a family, I have a wife, I have a baby, thank God.
Well, sure.
And it's definitely more challenging when things like this happen because, you know, because it takes a toll on the things. You know, you have to kind of think about other people that you live with.
Right.
And you know, it's definitely, you know, going away to training camp and things like that. So you know, it's definitely challenging when something like this happens. But you know, this was very unpredictable. It's completely outside of my control. And you know, thank God that my better half is understanding and supportive of what I do. So,
Amen.
So, you know,
Amen to that.
You know, we'll take the challenge as it comes and you know, make our best to be victorious and be successful.
Amen to that. Obviously,
no one said it would be easy, man.
Right. That's right. Very few. You know, if it's easy, then there's something wrong. And I don't think there's any champion in history that's had an easy road to a title. So. Great that obviously you appreciate that, understand that. And, you know, Muhammad Ali had this great quote because it was his birthday a few weeks ago. He said he hated training, but he'd rather hate training and live the rest of his life a champion than not go through that process. So I guess it's kind of the same thing. You'd rather go through this process and be a champion, and then you get to live the rest of your life as champion if that's the way, you know, God willing, it works out.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, the sacrifice which sometimes, you know, is a lot, you know, it is worth the victory. And, you know, if all good things, all things that are worth something, you know, are hard and challenging and worth, you know, and worth putting time and sacrifice in. So, you know, this is the road I chose, and, you know, and that's what it is.
We're speaking with Dmitriy Salita. If you're just joining us here on Lewis Live and Israel Sports Radio, Dmitriy set to fight Hector Camacho Jr. The fight at this point has been delayed because Danny Garcia, who's fighting Zab Judah, suffered an injury. You know, speaking of Zab Judah, Zab has fought Floyd Mayweather Jr., has been a champion. Have you had a chance to talk with him about the boxing game, things going on, tips to learn from him? Because you know, Zab's an interesting guy. He's got quite the personality, but no one can really dispute his talent. So have you had a chance to speak with him since, at the time, you know, you guys were going to be on the same fighting card?
I haven't spoken to him recently, but I grew up with Zab. And, you know, I think Zab is one of the most talented fighters in the world. He's actually probably more talented than Mayweather.
Wow.
When he was young and he was so talented that he could get away with not working as hard.
Right. I
think that was, you know, and he'll admit it. I think that he didn't, and that's what cost him the big fights. And Mayweather, I've been to camp with Mayweather. He's also obviously tremendously talented, but he really, really busts his behind and you know, and puts in the work. But Zab is, again, because Zab is so talented, and he's had many great victories in his career, and he's coming off a good win against Vernon Paris, who was an undefeated fighter. I think that Zab has a good shot. He always has a good shot, and you know, if he's focused and if he's in condition, you know, to go past the fifth and sixth round at a good pace, I think that you know, then he may be in trouble. But it's obviously, you know, it's always interesting to see when a young hot prospect, you know, fights one of these, you know, old legends.
Yeah.
Older legends.
Right.
Zab is not old. He's an older legend. So, you know, at the same time, Danny Garcia is coming off two of the biggest wins of his career, and his confidence is riding high, and he's getting better with each fight. So, you know, that's what makes boxing so interesting.
Yeah.
That's why they make the big bucks.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, Zab definitely has stuff left in the tank, and it would be, part of the reason this card, I was looking forward to obviously watching you fight, watch Zab fight as well, because Zab's certainly a tremendous talent. Now, you've talked about, obviously you don't want to look past Hector Camacho Jr., but your goal is to get another title shot. You're right now you want to fight for the 147-pound title shot against Paul Mangini. Is that still the thinking at this point, even with this delay, at some point in the future?
It is still a goal of mine, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, and one of the things that I found, through experience is that first of all and foremost is that God runs the world in every way. But
Amen.
Even on a kind of more mundane level, some things that happen, like getting certain fights and not getting certain fights, is really outside of my control.
Right.
And it's meant to be, so I do whatever I can do to make it happen, but some things happen that are outside of my control, and there's many different forces in play and many different things that happen that I have there's nothing I can do. And boxing is a big sport, but it's very unorganized. It's not like there is no set rhythm of somebody getting a shot or some certain fights happening. There's many things that can happen to disrupt it, even if it makes the most sense in the world. So the fight, the Camacho fight was offered to me. First of all, I told Golden Boy that I want significant fights, and then they offered me the Camacho fight, and I took it the same day that it was offered to me. And things happened, and that fight didn't happen. But it didn't happen at the time that we thought it would happen.
Right.
But we'll see what the future holds. Just have to stay focused and keep training hard, and and hope for the best outcome.
Well, I'll tell you, I would love to see on April 27th you get the victory in impressive fashion and look at the camera saying, "I'm going to Israel." That would be tremendous. It's something we're going to hope for. I'll go to the hotel and pray for that. I really love to see that. Last question before we let you go. Even though it's not boxing related, Super Bowl Sunday is this Sunday, so it's the biggest sporting event of the year. Have to ask you, who do you like? Ravens, 49ers. Give us the team who's going to win and the score. Even if you're not the biggest football fan, it's okay.
You know what? It's funny that it's even the biggest sporting event in Israel. I didn't know that you guys follow like that.
Oh yeah, you know what? We're gonna have it's gonna be up until 1 a.m, and there are gonna be bars filled throughout Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, because it's the game. Even if people know nothing about football, they sit and watch the game for the commercials. So it's 300 million people. Yeah,
it's the event.
Yeah, it's so many levels.
I wonder, is it shown on ESPN in Israel?
Yep, it'll be shown on ESPN. Absolutely. So we'll get to watch it live.
Is it ESPN Israel or is it ESPN like Europe or something like that?
Regular ESPN. I think they take the American feed. Although I need to actually preface, the commercials are not the same. So we don't get to see some of the stuff you guys will see in the United States. But yeah, people are going to be staying up late to watch the game. There's a lot of Baltimore fans in Israel, some San Francisco fans. So they're, it's probably, even in Israel, it's probably one of the biggest events of the year next to, some soccer games, outside of soccer pretty much. But, worldwide, it's the biggest, 300 million.
So I'll tell you, I know nothing about both teams. But Baltimore, my most favorite athlete and my hero, Tamir Goodman, comes from Baltimore.
Oh, there you go.
Because he comes from Baltimore.
Nice.
In his honor, I'm gonna root for the Baltimore team.
All right, that sounds good. And Tamir's been on the show as well, great guy, and that's true. Baltimore had him. He was a star there in Baltimore, so that makes sense. So there you go. So hopefully, I picked Baltimore to win, by the way. So hopefully for both of us, that'll work out that way. And hopefully we see you fight as soon as possible. If it's April 27th, then get the victory then, and hopefully get the title shot as soon as possible. We'd love to see that happen. We're praying for you here in Israel. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. And someday, sooner than later, I hope to actually visit your studio, and maybe after that we can go work out together at the Jerusalem Boxing Club. Yeah,
that'd be great. I'm down whenever you want to come. That sounds great. And thank you so much. And we'll do it. It's a date. No problem. Let's do it.
Take care. Okay. All the best, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye. That was Dmitriy Salita. Kind of sad news that the fight is postponed until April 27th. I'll be honest with you, I did not find that out until Dmitry told me. That's how quick it was, the breaking news about it. That kind of came out of nowhere, but there has been an injury regarding Garcia, who's set to fight Zab Judah, and that's the main fight of the card. That's the top fight. So if that fight can't happen, then they kind of have to reshuffle a lot of the cards. That's very frustrating and disappointing for everyone on the undercards, including Dmitry Salita, because just imagine if you're out there training 2 months, everything you have, and then the fight is postponed, you then are going to have to train again. So that's a tough spot. Boxing, I have to tell you, for all the kids out there listening to this show, if you want to be a professional athlete, boxing is one of the harder ways to go. There's a lot easier ways to make it big in professional sports outside of boxing. It's not just that you have a lot lack of control of these type of things. You need a lot of good breaks to go your way, but also only the top of the top, like Dmitry, are successful. Most people do not know the 15th best heavyweight contender out there. But people know who the 15th best baseball player is. And a lot of injury in boxing, and it's a lot of, we'll talk with Britt about this a little bit more, but it is not the easiest way to make it big in professional sports. So all the credit to Dmitry for hanging in there with, losing after losing the title shot to Amir Khan. Still 5-0 in his comeback fights, and hopefully he'll get the shot soon. Let's take a commercial break, and we're going to have more on the other side. This is Lewis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
All right, we'll be right back with Tel-Aviv Sabres star running back Brandon McDougal right after this commercial break. This is Lewis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Thank you for tuning in to us. We're here until midnight. We've just had a fantastic show. I really appreciate everybody for joining us through chat, through listening to us on Wonder Radio, on TuneIn Radio, and, of course, here on the website. We've had Dmitriy, Salita, Pete Shepard from WEEI in Boston, Jerry Coleman from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore, and much, much more. On the line right now, the star running back for the defending champion Tel-Aviv Sabres, Brandon McDougal. Brandon McDougal, welcome to Lewis Live and Israel Sports Radio. How you doing out there?
I'm doing good. How's it going?
It's going great, and we had your coach on, John Sharon, about an hour ago. I'm going to ask you a question that I asked him. You joined the team this season, the defending champions, and they had Corey Zinker in the backfield, who was an MVP candidate last year. How have the two of you been able to coexist, to play so well, and to be part of an undefeated team at 7-0?
Good question. But actually, it's because of John. It's really because of John. His coaching, trying to build a team chemistry with everyone, especially me and Corey in the backfield, due to the fact that we already knew each other before the season even started. And, we talk pretty often. So we already had, like, a pretty good team chemistry with each other. Just a really good relationship. So it was pretty easy.
Now, I've mentioned some of the scores throughout the season that your ball club's been a part of. Every team you played, you guys have demolished. The closest game has been against the Sabres, 38-20. And I mean, at some of those games, the game against the Canes, no disrespect to the Canes, it looked like you guys were not even at 100%, and you guys took care of them pretty easy. That was that was 72, I believe, you put on them. 76 to 18 against the Canes. So how has this dominance taken place? How have you guys been able to be this successful this season?
Like I said, once again, it reverts back to John, and just our defense is just amazing. I think the defense is amazing, the play calling, and it's not anything to take away from any of the other teams. But I just think that this year the Sabres have just been a dominant machine. I mean, it's like a well-oiled machine, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, you was at the game when we played against the Kings, and what did you think?
Yeah, again, when I was watching that game, I couldn't believe what I was seeing because it was this dominant performance, 76 to 18, and things looked, I don't want to say slow motion, but it just looked simple. It looked like you guys weren't breaking a sweat. I watched the IFL for a long time. John Sharon's had 2 title teams, another one make the championship, and I told him an hour ago that this is his best team, and he agreed. He said this is top to bottom the most talented team that the Sabres have ever had, which really says something. Now, before we continue with the Sabres, I want to talk about your personal health because a lot of people have been asking, where are you percentage-wise? You had to take off some time to have some surgery. How do you feel at this point? 80, 90%, 100%, 70%? Where are you at right now, and how are you feeling?
100%, 100%. I'm good to go. Like you said, I was out for about a month or so with surgery, and obviously I couldn't play. I lost a lot of weight. Couldn't eat solid foods, but right now I'm back at it. I'm back into the gym, so I'm back to practicing. I'm back to playing full contact football. So I'm 100%. I'm ready to go. Okay,
which is pretty scary for the rest of the league. This surgery, if you don't mind me asking, if it's too personal, I apologize, but I found it interesting that it's basically, and it's something perhaps other people should do, that's why I'm bringing this up, but it's basically to help your breathing, correct? Is that what happened?
Exactly. It was basically, the name of the procedure is called obstructive sleep apnea, and that's pretty much where your uvula is severely swollen to the point where you can barely breathe.
Okay.
And with that, if I know a few of the Rebels players and for the other teams may remember, for the first couple of games, I only could play a half because I was out the rest of the game with cramps because I wasn't getting enough oxygen. So after I had the surgery, it increased my oxygen by 50%. So now I don't have any cramps, don't have any problems, any issues. My body is getting the great, plentiful amount of oxygen that it needs. And so, like I said, I'm good to go now.
Again, scary for the league that you have not been at 100% up to this point, and here you are feeling great at 100% after that surgery. Now, looking at, and again, no disrespect to the rest of the teams, but at this point, as far as I can tell, the toughest competition for you guys remains a team that you have not played, and the Hammers, Dr. Keith Noble, of course, part of that team. They're undefeated as well. You guys are playing them February 16th. So talk about among the players what has been talked about in preparation for that ball game.
Well, basically what we say as a team is, pretty much take no prisoners. We go out and play every team as if they're trying to take something that we have. We want to go out and dominate every game. I mean, just like any other team, they want to go out and dominate. We go out and we want to dominate every game. So due to the fact that the Hammers are also 7-0 and they are hammer strong, it's a build up to a championship bout. We have 2 undefeated teams going at it. And obviously there's going to be a losing team whenever the game is over. One team is going to walk away at 8-0. Hopefully, and that's us. And then there's going to be another team walk away with the L, with the loss.
Right.
So pretty much we just approach it as like there's just one team in our way that's stopping us from trying to get a championship.
Wow. Okay. And again, as I said, if everyone out there listening, if you're only going to watch one game the entire year in the regular season, go to that game because I might make the trip out there as well. I really want to see this game. It's going to be tremendous. We had Dr. Noble on talk about your team and other teams. From your perspective, what has been the secret to their success? Obviously, Dr. Noble's been huge. He has college football experience. They seem to have a great defense. What you've been hearing from a player's perspective, what is the reason why they're 7-0?
Well, I think that they have a really good coaching staff this year, and that is a credit to Keith, because he understands the game much better than almost any other coach in the league, except for John Sharona, obviously.
Right.
But he understands the game like so much better. He breaks down the film, and like I said, just their coaching staff is so much more better than what they've had in the past. So I think that is a credit to their success, and I think their coaching staff has their guys believing in what their coaches is telling them. You know, you have to believe in the system, and you have to trust the system in order for it to work, and that's pretty much what's happening.
We're speaking with Brandon McDougal from the Tel-Aviv Sabres, star running back. Now, a couple of years ago, we had a lot of fun because it was the end of the year, and you were back with Beersheba, and I asked who was the MVP, and you said it was you. So I know you're an honest guy. You're not going to do PC stuff if you don't believe it. We're about 70% away through the season. Who is the MVP? If you think it's you could say it. You think it's Corey, D, whoever, someone on another team. Who do you think's the MVP at this point?
At this point in time, I have to say MVP, most valuable player. And in my opinion, most valuable player is the player that is the most valuable to that team, whether it's wins, whether it's losses. I don't care if the team is 0-5, but if there's one guy that's putting up huge numbers, I would have to probably say Zach Labby, because Zach Labby from the Beersheba Black Swarm is putting up huge numbers at the running back position. And I have to give credit when credit is due. He actually deserves the credit right now because he's leading. He is the leading rusher in the league right now for the running back position. Now I know the Mr. Kaufman from the Underdogs. He puts up a lot of numbers too, but he's the running back. The quarterback. So I'm looking at from the running back position. I would have to go with Zach Labby. He's putting up huge numbers, and the last running back to do that was, I would say, myself or this other guy I keep hearing about that used to play for the Kings years ago. But he's doing really good. And even though the Black Swarm are right now, I want to say they're 3-4, but they're on the up and up, and they're fighting for that last playoff spot. And I think as long as they can keep Zach Labby healthy, they'll definitely make the playoffs. So that's who I would have to go with between him and or Mr. Danny Eastman. I mean, he's a Rookie of the Year / MVP. I mean, he's putting up huge numbers of touchdowns, receiving yards, return yards. I mean, he's the all-around, all-purpose numbers. So he's definitely a candidate.
All right, well, there you go. A couple of candidates out there, and there is some time left. There's, for most teams, 3 games left to try to solidify that spot. And again, you probably would be in the running. You might be in the running anyway, but had you not taken the time off, do you feel that may have hurt your chances for the MVP because you had to miss a couple of games with the surgery?
Actually, I'm not so sure it would. I mean, obviously, it did hurt my numbers by having to take a couple of games off here and there. But obviously, I can't say that it did because, in my opinion, our team is so diverse and it's so talented that there's not only one guy that shines. I mean, it could be a receiver. It can be Jonathan Carrion that shines one game. It could be a D going 19 for 19 passes. It could be, Manning Fudge, getting 6 interceptions. It could be me. It could be Corey. It could be Adam. It's like in any game, it could be any one of us. So I don't really think that me taking the game off would have mattered at all.
All right, now, when I saw you guys play against the Jerusalem Canes, I met this gentleman. I heard about him. He did not play that particular game because he was injured, but many people say he could be the best player in the IFL. I think you know who I'm talking about. For those who have not seen IFL games this year or seen him play, tell us a little bit about the Tel-Aviv Sabres' secret weapon. And, again, as scary as the team is now, it could be even scarier when he gets going in the playoffs. So tell us a little bit about the secret weapon.
Well, you would tell me what the secret weapon you're referring to.
Well, you guys have a couple, but this gentleman has some serious football experience, and he's huge. I was amazed to see, not just big, but built, and you could tell he's a football player. We met right at the end of the game. and the Canes came at Kraft Family Stadium again. He was injured that particular game.
Okay. Well, he's an amazing guy. Like you said, he has a lot of football experience. And when he is healthy and when he is on the field, there is a big difference. I'm glad to be playing with this guy. And, sometimes when I watch this guy run, I say this is what it looks like when people say they see me run. We did our combines over the summer, and we ran the 40, and his 40 time was just as fast as mine. So
wow.
I have to have respect for that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
It's amazing, and he's got amazing hands. I mean, speed, hands, he's, knowledge of the game. So he's an amazing attribute to the team.
Again, I mean, in the playoffs, because the last season in the playoffs, Haifa brought out a couple of guys that seemed to be secret weapons. You didn't see them a lot in the regular season. They got healthy, and it was part of the reason they blew out the Rebels. And the Sabres might be able to even have something extra with this guy and have a three-headed monster with yourself, this gentleman, and Corey Zinker. So scary stuff for the rest of the league. What would be your advice to the rest of the league? I'll put you on the spot that way. Should they just not show up at this point? Can they throw a zone at you? How do you stop all the weapons that the Sabres have to offer?
All right. That's a really good question. Well, like I said, we respect all the teams in the league. So the only thing I would say to every team is just to continue to go out and prepare and come really prepared to play, because you never know what the Sabres would throw at you. You never know what any other team would throw. I mean, it's all about, like I said, studying film and working on things in practice. Because, you're not going to have the same defense against us that you may have against the Pioneers or you may have against the Rebels. You're going to see something different. It's not going to be the same. And the one thing I can say that I'm happy to say that we're just a really talented team, that one person cannot be pinpointed. That's one thing I'm happy to say. And like I said, that's not to disrespect any other team or anything like that. Because I'm a firm believer that if Adi Hakami was to go out, injury, God forbid that from happening, but if he was to go out, I'm a firm believer that we can still win the game and move on.
Yeah, and again, a lot of that credit, as I talked about earlier in the show, the system the Sabres run at, and it starts with John Sherritt right at the top, because I've seen the Sabres for years. They've had some great players that move on, whether it's leaving Israel or retirement, what have you, and they just plug someone else in. And again, that's a credit to John Sherritt. Last question about the IFL before we move on to Super Bowl 47 and all that kind of fun stuff. Last year, your team didn't make the postseason. You were with me in the booth for part of the Israel Bowl championship. What does it mean now that you very well could be playing in the championship? Last year watching the game with me. This season you'll be on the field most likely, unless there's a major upset. Just what does that mean to you as a football player?
Oh man, it means a lot. I mean, that was the reason why I made the switch. I mean, like I said, the number one reason was Coach John Sharon, and the second reason was Corey and Adam Zinker, and then the third reason was to have an opportunity and a better chance at winning a championship. Because to me, it didn't matter about the numbers at the time that I made the decision. For me, it was all about winning. And I wanted to win now, not next week or next year. I wanted to win now. And I felt like to say this was the best opportunity for me to win now. And so far, I'm happy with the decision I made. So it's going to mean a lot to be able to be out there in Kraft Stadium on the field, 12 o'clock noon with the TV crew and the camera crew, and to look up and see the stands and everyone in the crowd wearing red and white and screaming, go Sabres. So it means a lot.
We're speaking with Tel-Aviv Sabres running back Brandon McDougal. Again, a tremendous season the Sabres have had, 7-0. The closest game has been 18 points over the Rebels. It's been the closest game the Sabres have played all year. So truly incredible stuff. Let's go to Super Bowl 47. Baltimore Ravens versus the San Francisco 49ers. Ravens have a bit of a distraction this week as Ray Lewis has allegedly done something against NFL rules by taking deer antler spray on his tongue. I don't know how that would help someone. I'm still learning about this. So they have a bit of a distraction. Both coaches are great. The Harbaugh brothers are excellent. Give us some of your breakdown as a football player looking into this week in this game on Sunday.
Well, first of all, deer antler spray has been credited as a steroid. I did some research on it a few years ago when I first heard about it because there was a NFL player, I cannot remember his name, who was accused of using deer antler spray. So I Googled it, looked it up online, and I think the bottles sell for about $50 to $75 a bottle. But obviously this stuff is supposed to, like I said, it's like a steroid basically. As far as Ray Lewis is concerned with that, do I believe he's guilty? Who knows? But moving on to football, I'm going for the Baltimore Ravens to win. Both of them have really good defenses. But from my breakdown of it, if Mr. Kaepernick from the 49ers can have an amazing game, they'll pull it out because the receiving core of the 49ers is really good. The receiving core of the Ravens is good as well. But everyone knows Joe Flacco, he always chokes, when the lights are in his face. He always chokes on the big stage. And he hasn't choked so far.
Right.
So therefore, it's bound to happen. It's the Super Bowl.
Right. You're saying
so
he's due.
It's bound to happen.
He's mathematically due. Okay. Interesting point. And that very well could happen. He's played great so far in the playoffs. Never played a Super Bowl, neither is Colin Kaepernick. You don't know. No one knows until the lights go on what exactly is going to happen. No one on these teams has experience except for Ray Lewis in the Super Bowl, and Randy Moss, of course. Randy Moss said something interesting yesterday during media day. He said he is the greatest receiver of all time. So I want to get your thoughts on those comments from Randy Moss.
Well, I saw that whenever he mentioned that, and as soon as they said that, they went straight to the greatest receiver of all time, which was Jerry Rice, and they compared the numbers. And he doesn't have half the numbers that Jerry Rice have, and like I said, he would have to play 7 more years in order to surpass or even get to where Jerry Rice is at.
That's correct.
Randy Moss is a nice receiver back in his heyday. He was really good. But a lot of things have changed, and Randy he's not the same receiver he was. So I disagree. He's a great receiver. One day he will make the Hall of Fame, but he is not the greatest receiver to play the game.
And Randy is probably top 10, perhaps even top 5, and I can even make an argument that he's the most talented receiver that's ever lived, but did not have the work ethic. He would brag about taking off of plays. He would not run his routes correctly. He didn't block. So he is not Jerry Rice's level at all. He's about 50 touchdowns short of Jerry Rice's mark. So, but when I want to point this out to you as a football player, do you sometimes have to have that mindset, I'm the best, to put yourself forward? So talk a little bit about that perspective.
Well, yeah, you have to have the mindset. It's just like you go out on the football field as a player. You have to visualize the play before it happens. You have to go out and visualize scoring touchdowns. You have to visualize breaking tackles. You visualize it and it happens. And a lot of players, they don't do that. They don't visualize going out and winning the game and how they're going to win the game. And then a lot of people say that maybe that's, fascination. Maybe they're just fantasizing about something that they wish that they can do. But it's part of the game. You have to visualize it. You have to go out and visualize catching that ball when it's passed to you and tucking it on your side and running for the touchdown. So it's pretty much the same thing. So, yes, you have to think you're the best. You have to have a little bit of cockiness with it. You have to be a little bit conceited with it, but not overdo it. So it has to be there.
And also,
yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And also, in particular, as I mentioned earlier in the program, wide receivers tend to have their own personalities for whatever reason, and they have to be a little bit more out there in their confidence. So, actually, I don't have a problem with what Randy Moss said. I don't agree with it, but I don't have a problem that he said that. Again, as a running back, let's talk about the running backs in Super Bowl 47. First, Frank Gore with the 49ers, just a tremendous career, almost 9,000 yards. When it's all said and done, he could crack in the top 5 all time. He's a Hall of Famer. This is his first Super Bowl. What are some of the strengths, weaknesses you see from Frank? Define his running style for us and for the audience.
Frank Gore is a bruiser. He doesn't have the speed of their backup, Michael James, out of Oregon, but he is fast enough to get through the holes. He's strong enough to break the first line and get into the second level. And Frank Gore, like I said, overall, he's just a beast. Just a big, strong beast. Ray Rice, he's the same way, but Ray Rice has more speed than Frank Gore does. Both of them are hard to tackle, especially Ray Rice. He's lower to the ground, but they're really good. I have to talk about the fullback for the Ravens. Mr. Vontae Leach was a guy that I played football against, and basketball and track and everything else growing up.
Oh, wow, okay.
We grew up probably 15, 20 minutes away from each other. And so I have to talk about Vontae Leach, and he's a big bruising fullback. I mean, he's not going to score too many touchdowns, but you get him in goal line situations every now and then, catch him out on the flat. And he goes out and he does his job. Definitely does his job. So I would have to say the best running back core, I would probably have to give it to the Ravens.
It's interesting because I feel like overall the 49ers are a better team with them more weapons, but there's certain intangibles the Ravens have and there's certain advantages they have, such as the running game. Let's talk about the defensive side. You have Patrick Willis for the 49ers, and he may not even be the Niners' best defenseman. I mean, it's scary. Ravens obviously have Ray Lewis, and they have Ed Reed. So defensively, talk about some of the strengths and advantages for both ball clubs.
Well, with the Ravens, you have the veterans, like you just said, Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. And with those two guys there, they make the entire defense so much better, so much better. I mean, they have the age, they have the wisdom. They're vets of the game. Versus with Patrick Willis, like you say, he's also a beast on defense. I mean, he'll lay you out with his hits, and he knows how to read the defense. But I just think overall, defensively, the 49ers are just a better defensive unit overall, because without Ray Lewis, you know, what would the Ravens be? You know, they're not the same defense. They're not the same. If you take Patrick Willis out, I don't think the 49ers defense will skip a beat. I really don't.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, they have so much to offer. I hear what you're saying. So it's kind of like Ray Lewis is so much more valuable because the Ravens have less to offer than the 49ers.
Exactly.
All right. So last question before we let you go. Give us the final prediction before Super Bowl 47. Who's going to win, and, of course, the score.
I would go with like I said, I'm rooting for the Ravens, but I'm going to say the 49ers are going to pull it out, and I'm going to go 31-20.
11 points. Wow.
11 points.
11 points. All right, that's going out on a limb. Most people have around 3 or 4. Some have had 7. 31-20. We have that in the books for Brandon McDougal for the San Francisco 49ers. Brandon, good luck the rest of the season with the Tel-Aviv Sabres, and especially good luck to that big ball game in a couple weeks against the Hammers. I'm going to try to figure out a way to make it out there and watch that game live because it's going to be tremendous. Both undefeated teams, and someone's O has got to go, as they like to say. Brandon, thank you so much, and we'll speak soon. Be well out there.
Thanks a lot. All right. See you soon.
Okay. Brandon McDougal, star running back from the Tel-Aviv Sabres, talking about the secret to success with the 7-0 Sabres ball club. Starts at the top with John Sharon, and John has really been able to figure out a way to have Brandon and Corey Zinker exist in the backfield together. John said partly because Corey is more of a fullback, but that system really makes them work together. D, as I mentioned, has only lost a few games in the past couple of years, including the postseason. And they have so much more to offer. So the Sabres, a scary team in the IFL. The Hammers, a scary team in the IFL. And then we have Super Bowl 47. So a good time for football fans out there. And a good time to discuss other things that aren't so good in sports, such as the baseball steroid scandal. We're going to take a commercial break. On the other side, 7-time Emmy Award winner Jim Williams. This is Lewis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey folks, Kagan here. As you know, I'm always staying on top of the fitness world, keeping up with current trends. One form of exercise that's been around for ages and is currently being rediscovered is suspension bodyweight training. So if you're looking for a way to get in shape, improve your health, and train your body to move in new ways, then the X1 by Israel Gym Systems is for you. Find out more on our website at www.israelgym.com or look for our page on Facebook, Israel Gym Systems X1. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here in Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Thanks again to star running back of the Tel-Aviv Sabres, Brandon McDougal. We've had a tremendous show so far, 5 hours in. Pete Shepard from WEEI, Jerry Coleman from CBS Sports in Baltimore, The Fan, 105.7. And Alan Shlomo Weingrad, former Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys, John Sherrod, head coach of the Tel Aviv Sabres, Andy Gershman, author of Modern Day Maccabees, Aaron Krolik, much, much more to come. We're here until midnight, of course. So thank you for everyone for tuning in to us and making us a part of your day. And also keep in mind that we're here for other venues as well. We'll hopefully broadcast the IFL Championship game. The Ofri Becker Trophy will be awarded at the end of the IFL season, and I hope to make it out to the Tel Aviv Sabres versus Hammers in Tel Aviv in a couple of weeks. That could be a preview of the IFL title game. But on the line right now to discuss Super Bowl 47, other major sporting issues, 7-time Emmy Award winner Jim Williams. Jim, how you doing out there?
I'm fine, Ari. How are you?
Doing wonderful. We appreciate you being on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio. And first question for you is Stan the Man Musial. I want to talk about him. He passed away a few days ago. And as a big St. Louis Cardinals fan like myself, we love Stan the Man. They actually made a statue of him in St. Louis, so he was really worshipped as a god. A nice, nice man. And it's interesting because he played in the time of Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams, not as famous as them, but he beat both of them in the World Series. I want to know if you had a chance to ever meet Stan in real life, and if so, tell us what that meeting was like.
Actually, I did get to know Stan, and I certainly wouldn't call him a friend, but I could call him an acquaintance. A very, very amazing man. Couldn't have been a nicer person. One of the great things about Stan was that he was a very unassuming guy. He was not, didn't go out and seek the spotlight. I will tell you this: he was a phenomenal businessman, and he definitely was far better off financially than was DiMaggio or Ted Williams or any of the of his counterparts when they retired. I mean, he was heavily involved with the folks with Anheuser-Busch. He was heavily involved with a number of hotels. He actually owned a couple of hotels, one which the Cardinals used to train in St. Petersburg. He owned the Hilton Hotel across the street from the ballpark in downtown St. Pete, Al Lang Field. Just a truly nice gentleman. I don't think he ever gets the credit, in large part because he played in St. Louis. Well, of course, DiMaggio and Ted Williams and some of the other guys played, in more media-friendly areas. But there's no question that Stan Musial is certainly the equal of those gentlemen, because he clearly played the game as well as them. And you have people like Willie Mays saying that that he was the best player he ever saw. And one of the things that Hank Aaron brought up the other day was that in the heights of black players just beginning to get into the major leagues, Stan Musial, Hank Aaron and a couple other black players were sitting we're now talking about at a National League All-Star game. They're sitting at a table playing cards, and there's no white players near them. Stan walked over, sat down, and said, "Deal me in, guys."
Wow.
He was very much, as a matter of fact, when the Cardinals were training in St. Petersburg in the 50s and early 60s, there were some problems in getting them into a hotel. He talked Gussie Busch, the owner of the Cardinals, as well as he put up some money of his own. They bought a hotel, and that later became the Hilton that he owned in St. Pete. And literally, the Cardinals all stayed together. The black players, white players, everybody stayed in the same hotel after it was brought to Mr. Bush's attention by Stan that the black players were being asked to stay in a different hotel. So
Wow.
he was very much a trailblazer from the standpoint of making sure that everybody felt comfortable, and he was also a phenomenal player, both defensively and offensively. So we lost in losing Stan Musial. We lost one of baseball's undeniable icons, and certainly one of the greatest players ever to play the game, no matter what era you want to get into. But there's one sidebar story that was kind of interesting. Bryce Harper, who plays, of course, for the Washington Nationals, Bryce is a big baseball historian. And Bryce had sent a note to Stan Musial saying how much he, thought he was a phenomenal player. When Bryce made it to the Nationals, he got a phone call from from the front office saying, Bryce, the clubhouse manager came in and said, Bryce, we need you to sign an autograph, a uniform, jersey. And he said, okay. So he said, who am I making it out to? And he said, Stan Musial. Stan Musial had wanted a Bryce Harper jersey.
Wow. Incredible.
So
that's something else.
So he said, you can't be serious. He thought they were putting him on. He said, no, Mr. Musial would like your jersey. So Bryce signed the jersey, sent it to Stan, and saw Stan when they were in St. Louis on the road trip, and made a special trip to see him. And there was what Stan liked about Bryce was he was a throwback type of a player. And when Stan Musial calls and asks if he could have your jersey, I don't think there's many people. Unfortunately, there aren't that many kids of 19 years old who know who Stan Musial is.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Unless you grow up in the St. Louis area, but Bryce being a very big historian of baseball, as I say, wrote Stan a letter saying that he was, he loved the way he played and studied the way he hit. So Stan actually asked for Bryce's uniform, a jersey, and Bryce autographed it and sent it to him. And as I said, saw him when they were in St. Louis. So he very much paid attention to what was going on during the, during baseball. And at 93 years old, passed away as a true ambassador of the game and clearly one of the nicest men I ever had the pleasure of meeting. I had the pleasure of because St. Petersburg and I, grew up in the Tampa Bay area. We pretty much spent a lot of time talking to Stan during spring training, and he was very much a gracious guy. From an interview standpoint, he would just sit there and chat with you as long as you needed him to, and never turned down an opportunity to do an interview. And I never saw him turn down an opportunity to sign an autograph or take a picture with somebody. He was always a very gracious man.
Yeah, it's something we heard a lot. I went to St. Louis once a year in the summer since I was a little kid up until 2002. I always hear about Stan the Man, how nice he was, and some numbers just for people who don't realize it. Again, his career numbers are much better than Williams and DiMaggio. He has over 3,600 hits, lifetime batting average of over 330, almost 500 home runs. His ballot into the Hall of Fame, 93.2%. And interesting, in 1948, almost won the Triple Crown. He had 2 home runs taken away, basically. One was a rainout, or he had that home run taken away, and that's what cost him the Triple Crown. So a tremendous player. I don't want to say – I actually think he is underrated. I did see a Sports Illustrated article that said he may be one of the most underrated ball players of all time. Why was that? Is it because it's not the New York market or the Boston market, or because he played during the times of DiMaggio Williams? I don't know what it is exactly, but you look at the numbers, it's just he is definitely one of the greatest. I don't know if people really appreciate Stan Musial the way they should. What are your thoughts about that?
No, I agree. I think that Stan Musial, the lore of DiMaggio and Ted Williams was that they, that there really wasn't anybody, and I'm going to say something blasphemous. I personally, as a National League fan growing up, I personally think, and in talking to some of the old school guys, I think DiMaggio and Williams were phenomenal players. There's no question about it. But I don't think you can talk about those guys without talking about Stan Musial. And remember that, frankly, the only person that was getting any publicity at the time in the National League was Willie Mays, and he really wasn't getting all that much in the way of publicity. Stan, because he played in the National League, really didn't get the just due that he deserved, and in large part because the New York writers and the Boston writers and writers in general really just didn't pay as much attention to Stan as they should have. And remember that Stan, just like Ted Williams, lost time because of the war.
Right.
So, to take as much time off as Stan did, and fight in the war, come back, and then pick up baseball and not miss a beat. In fact, get better as he went into this. It was a pretty amazing situation. So I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility to say that Stan was, without question, probably in my mind anyway, was the best outfielder of that generation in the National League, and certainly one of the three best outfielders of that generation to play.
Yeah, he lost the 45 seasons served the United States in the Navy, as I mentioned, 25 home runs short of 500. So he had that season. That was when he was in his 20s. Very well could have hit 25 home runs. Would have been at 500. Frustrating thing for Musial. My mom talked about this all the time. He played all the way up until 1963. The Cardinals, of course, win the World Series in 64 without him, and Musial's last World Series championship was 46. So he basically went 17 years without a World Series title, and then when he retires, they win it. That does happen sometimes. But still won his World Series titles, 3 MVPs in the National League, 7-time batting champion. And last thing about Musial before we move on, President Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in February 2011. Talk a bit about that. It's the highest honor a civilian can get in the United States. Talk about why Musial got that award and just how important that is.
Well, Musial has always been an ambassador of sports, of baseball, and of, as I said before, a humanitarian. And he spent a great deal of time in the United States raising awareness of, issues not only in the St. Louis area, but throughout the country that needed to be taken care of. And he was one of these people that had no problem lending his name to going out and raising funds for people who were less fortunate than he was. And he called a great deal of attention to a number of different inner city problems, and both in St. Louis and Chicago and throughout the United States. So, I mean, again, besides being a phenomenal baseball player, Musial was a genuine humanitarian. And this is not to take a swat at Williams or DiMaggio or any of those guys in that time period, but those guys were not, as I say, they weren't businessmen. They weren't particularly activists in any real role, and they spent a great deal of time running around, being corporate speakers or making money, and I don't begrudge that either. Being who they were. I mean, they basically traded on their name. It was Ted Williams, who liked to go fishing, so Ted Williams created a line of fishing gear for Sears Root and Roebuck and made, a lot of money that way, and he was entitled to do it, and good for him. DiMaggio, very, very quiet type of a man, much like Musial in that regard. Both of them were very quiet, but Stan realized that, and some of the credit in this has to go to August Busch, who was a very outgoing guy and liked outgoing people, and Stan was the kind of guy that he liked, and he kind of mentored Stan about the importance of business and life after baseball. And so Stan understood the importance of being a businessman. And so what got him the medal was the fact that he was a businessman who understood what it was like to help build out the inner city. And so he was an ambassador on many levels, and he also was quite, the humanitarian. And as I said before, had no problem sitting down, and no matter who you were, if you walked up to him and you'd say hello to him, he would shake your hand, sign whatever you wanted to have signed, have a picture taken with you, and just was a very class act. And I think that he's just the kind of guy who, if you are a professional athlete, or even if you're not, you'd want to pattern yourself after him, because he's just he really got it. He understood how blessed he was to be able to play this game, and how blessed he was to be able to excel at it as he did. And unfortunately, as you said quite accurately, as a Cardinal fan, Ari, that the Cardinals had a phenomenal farm system, but by the time the guys like Ken Boyer and Bob Gibson and those guys were coming up, he was on his way, out from his ability to play. And so he played during the years when the Cardinals were competitive, but not, as dominant as they were. And few people remember the fact that the Cardinals are second only to the Yankees in
total World Series titles,
World Series wins.
That's right.
They're a phenomenal franchise and a successful franchise, but predominantly a successful franchise from the 60s on. I mean, the early days were, the Gas House Gang. You got to go all the way back to the 30s.
Dizzy
40s.
Dean and yeah,
and all those guys. But he was the face of the National League, and certainly the face of the St. Louis Cardinals through most of the 40s, 50s, and obviously into the very early 60s.
It's so much fun talking about this because it's bringing up great childhood memories. I remember going to the Cardinal Hall of Fame in Busch Stadium, not the new one, the older one, and seeing the statue and seeing all the pictures of Stan Musial in his heyday and the great things that he did. He will be missed. Again, just tremendous ball player. If anyone gets a chance to look up his numbers, you would be shocked. If Stan played in New York City, he would be the greatest thing since sliced bread. The 3,600 home runs and 3,600 hits, almost 500 home runs. So he will be missed, and obviously our prayers with his family, of course. And staying on baseball as we're really energized. This is kind of a sadder story because we're talking about the glory of baseball. This is a little bit sadder. The list has come out of people who have been linked to performance-enhancing drugs, and Gio Gonzalez is on that list, of course. You're familiar with him as being on the ground in D.C., playing for the Nationals. Had a great season last year, Cy Young candidate, big reason why the Nationals were in the playoffs. What's the latest? His father is saying that he goes to that training facility to lose weight. Is it possible that there's been a mistake, or did Gio get caught with it red-handed, basically?
Well, I think baseball has been studying this for the past 3 to 4 months. I think what they'll do is they will come out and they'll tell us. I mean, from what we understand, Gio hasn't gotten anything from that organization that was performance enhancing. I mean, they basically, the group that we're talking about is a company that sells everything from weight loss milkshakes to all kinds of different things. So I think that when it came out, and it ironically was a very obscure paper in Miami that brought out this list, so it's kind of an odd situation for that, which is not to say that it should be discounted by any stretch of imagination, but it wasn't the Miami Herald. It was a weekly paper in Miami that came out with this. And obviously Gio is there, but the real focal point of the investigation seems to be headed at Alex Rodriguez and what is going on in that regard. And so I think that everybody, including General Manager Mike Rizzo, of the Nationals, who came out with a statement saying, "Look, we believe Gio. If he says that he didn't get involved, he didn't, and we're going to wait to see what happens with baseball and see how what their investigation comes, and whatever it is, we'll find out." You can't appeal something until it happens, and right now Major League Baseball is taking all of this information that they've been looking at and going into advisement on it, and we'll see if Gio did something, and if he did, and I hope he didn't, but if he did, then he'll pay the price for it, as will everybody else. So baseball is really cracking down in this area, and I think that's a good thing, but we'll see, how they how they come out with regard to this list and how many of these guys actually used whatever it is that there was performance enhancing, and there's all kinds of crazy situations with regard to performance enhancing deals at this point. For the record, and obviously it's meaningless because we all know that a lot of people do not test positive. Jim's never tested positive for anything, so neither did Lance Armstrong, neither did a lot of people. So just not testing positive doesn't necessarily mean he's not guilty. But I'd like to. I'm always one of these people that would rather find out the facts before making speculation as to what happened here. So we'll see how it all shakes out. And I don't think that it's going to take long for Major League Baseball to come to a conclusion as to what their investigation found.
All right, and let's move on to Super Bowl 47, a scandal regarding Ray Lewis and this deer antler spray stuff. Ray's denied it. Again, I've said this throughout the whole show. I still don't understand how it works. I really, really don't. I don't know how deer antler spray in your tongue makes you a better football player. But there is something in there, apparently, that's against NFL rules. Lewis has denied taking it, obviously. We had Jerry Coleman on earlier. He believes Ray Lewis. You could obviously he has a bias, but he said he believes him. I want to get your thoughts. Ray also has never failed a drug test. So on that note, he's clean. Of course, Lance Armstrong never failed one either, whatever that is worth. But just give us your thoughts. They got blindsided by the story. Jerry said that on the way to Media Day, the Ravens found out this story broke. And, of course, he's been asked about this nonstop for the past couple of days. So give us your thoughts, Ray Lewis and deer antler spray.
Well, it's kind of interesting because you don't. The only thing you ingest in this situation are some tablets. Everything else is an ointment, type thing. As we say, the deer antler spray or whatever. What I know of Ray Lewis, I don't know him as well as I know other players, but what I do know of Ray is very skittish about putting anything in his body that isn't, that isn't pretty, straightforward stuff. I mean, he's not, heavy duty alcohol guy. He's not a heavy duty.
Right.
He's never been a smoker. He's very much a clean, living, athletic kind of a guy. He injured himself. He wanted to get back. He had heard about this gentleman and his the SWAT company that comes up with this, basically they push this off as a healing aspect. So, Ray had wanted to find out if there was something there that he could use that would help him, with his biceps and help him, work on his injured arm. I tend to believe that that Ray had no idea necessarily what he was getting into, other than it was homeopathic medicine. And I don't think that there's anything that he did that enhanced his performance. I'm not sure. Being married to a doctor who is a sports doctor, I can assure you that my wife felt that there was absolutely nothing that he could rub on his body or taken from ingested that would have helped heal his his biceps, so or any of the injuries that he had. So whatever he did wouldn't have helped him in his healing process. It just that's not the way it works. We're talking about specifically what he was alleged to have taken. So even if he took it, it might have been on the banned list, but we don't know at this point in time, whether it would have helped him or not. I mean, because frankly, just because it's on the banned list doesn't mean it helps you.
That's
and
true.
I think that's one of the things we have to be careful of, these PEDs with Gio and with with those who are who want to run Alex Rodriguez out of New York. You have to find out whether these things are indeed if what they ingested or what they took helped them, or they were being used for some other type of situation. And I know it's hard to say, given all of the PED, abuses, but you would think by this point in time that people like Alex Rodriguez and Gio Gonzalez are smart enough to realize that you're not, the chances of you getting away with that are pretty slim in these days.
Yeah, look, whatever it's worth, I made fun of this earlier, but it is true that Major League Baseball apparently has the toughest testing of the four sports.
Far.
Yeah, and, I don't know. I don't know if they thought they were going to get away with it and didn't, or they accidentally dug it. I'm not sure. We'll find out more information. There's obviously a lot of different thoughts and perspectives on the system, but they obviously, if it's true, they're going to have to do the proper thing, suspend them if they really did do it, and if it's the first offense. Last question before we let you go. I know you made a prediction last week, but since this is a week later, the story came out. It may take away the Ravens' focus. It may help them. They may rally around this whole deer antler thing. So the game is in a couple of days. Final prediction on this program for you. Who do you like winning Super Bowl 47? And please give us a score as well.
I still think that the Ravens can beat the 49ers. I think that in large part it'll be because they're very disciplined on defense in keeping containing Kaepernick is basically what they'll have to do. They'll want him to try to beat them with his arm. I think that with with guys like Bernard Pollard, with guys like obviously Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs, I think that those are guys who are going to be able to contain him. They'll hope to get some pass rush on him. I mean, he's played 10 games, in football, as a starter, and now he's starting in the Super Bowl. That's a big upgrade in that regard. I honestly think that someone who you are very familiar with, I think that the Ravens will win by a score of either 24-17 or 24-21, something in that realm, by inside 7 points, something in that regard. I think they can win by that. But I think that the guy who is going to be the X factor in this game.
And I know you're going to say Anquan Boldin.
I'm going to say Anquan Boldin.
Yep.
I'm going to say that there's not anybody on the 49ers that's going to be able to cover Anquan Boldin.
Right. That's right.
I think that Anquan Boldin is a beast. He presents matchup problems for the 49ers in every possible way. You know him as a guy who, what he does is, when he came into the league, he was a burner. He's now one of the amazing possession receivers who just runs the most precise routes, has hands of steel. He can literally grip the ball and rip it away from anybody. And so when you need, when the Ravens are attempting to keep, the ball and sustain drives, you need 6 yards. You throw the ball to Anquan, he's going to get to 10. He's very much a difficult matchup, as is Pitta, the tight end, for the Ravens. I think that what we're going to see is a lot of controlled passing, a lot of Ray Rice running, and a lot of possession football by the Ravens. And I think that's I don't think Kaepernick is going to come out of this one, with the fairy tale story. I think that if there's a fairy tale story here, it's going to be with Baltimore. But and the fairy tale being Anquan Bolden being the MVP of the Super Bowl. I think that he's got that potential, and I think that he's the X factor there.
And Anquan Bolden, I'll tell you, the Cardinals have not been the same since he left town. So his value really showed. I know he was Larry Fitzgerald's sidekick, but you saw part of the reason Larry Fitzgerald was so successful was because they had to guard Anquan Bolden and focus on him. Jim, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time on Lewis Live and Israel Sports Radio. Thank you for the trip down memory lane in regards to Stan Musial, and, of course, enjoy the game on Sunday.
I look forward to it, and we'll all miss Stan. He was one of the great guys, and as I say, whenever you saw him, he'd say, "What do you say? What do you say?" that was Stan's line.
There you go.
So, all right, what do you say? What do you say? Shabbat shalom to everybody, and have a good Super Bowl weekend.
Sounds great. Be well, Jim. We'll speak with you soon.
Indeed. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, 7-time Emmy Award winner. And I really, I always enjoyed talking to Jim, but it was always fun. It's always fun to talk about Stan Musial, St. Louis Cardinals, etc. And again, anyone out there who is not, if you're a big baseball fan or a historian or, somebody that really enjoys the game, you want to look up Stan Musial's career because it's one of the greatest in baseball history. It really, really is. Over 3,600 hits, almost 500 home runs. We're going to switch gears now and talk some boxing. On the line right now, the director of Split Decision, Brin-Jonathan Butler. Brin, welcome to Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. There's so much to talk with you, so we'll try to get everything in before midnight here in Israel. Let's talk about the big fight. Your guy, Regano, is going to take on Donaire, and we've talked about Donaire being one of the best pound-for-pound boxers in the world. Perhaps he is even the best, according to some people. Tell us when that fight is going to take place and how that got originated, how that deal was struck between the two camps.
Well, it's been a real contentious back and forth, actually. It's been very strange how this fight's come about. It has not been signed as yet, but both parties apparently have agreed to it. And the information I'm getting is that it will be April 13th, most likely at Madison Square Garden in New York. And yeah, as you say, with Donaire, his pedigree is very, very impressive, coming off of almost all the boxing experts rate his 2012 as being the best boxer of that year, including ESPN. So he's definitely a big name coming off the best year in the sport. So it's a lot of excitement.
All right, now I'm Jewish, so I need to know some money stuff. Regano, we've talked about the fact that he has not made a tremendous amount of money for whatever reason, whether it's the language barrier, whether it's his boxing style, even though he's a champion. How much, this I assume will be the biggest payday of his career. How much money are we talking about for Regano if this fight with Donaire goes down in MSG?
The figures that I've heard are for his last fight, to give some perspective, he made his biggest payday against Marroquin, and he made $220,000. And apparently he's asking now for in the neighborhood of $1 million for this fight.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a huge jump. And on Donaire's side, part of what's made this fight almost not happen, and still is at issue in terms of disrupting it, is the feud between Bob Arum and Golden Boy.
Of course.
Has erupted with this fight, where Golden Boy apparently has offered as much as $5 million to Donaire's camp and will give Arum full co-promotional rights, allow his fighter to come out last, all of the kind of perks that are, down to the most minute detail, in order to allow their guy, Abner Mares, to fight Donaire instead of Rigondeaux. $5 million being just for the camp of Donaire to be spread however they want to do it. So it gives you some idea that in turning down that fight, Arum is sacrificing an enormous bounty to have Rigondeaux, who, as you say, is going to bring virtually no fan base, no live gate, and no pay-per-view. So it's very interesting.
All right, and the $5 million, would that be the biggest payday for Donaire?
Oh, I think it would be 5 times the biggest payday he's got. The information I have is that he's making in the neighborhood of $1 million a fight for his last couple of fights. So it's an exorbitant sum. And for this weight class, 122 pounds, nothing. It would be by far the biggest purse ever for a fight in that class. I mean, that's like Oscar De La Hoya money. I mean, Marquez made less fighting Pacquiao.
Wow. Okay, so very interesting stuff. Why would Oscar De La Hoya's company, Golden Boy, offer that type of money to Donaire? Is it because he's one of the pound-for-pound best? But, I mean, $5 million he's talked about a whole other level. So what do you think is their incentive? Do they think they're going to get the money back on their return?
There's no way they could get their money back on the return because Maris definitely has a Mexican fan base in Los Angeles, but there's a reason why nobody's paying that kind of money to this weight class. They don't have that much recognition. And even Donaire being a 2012 ESPN Fighter of the Year, he has never been a massive draw. He has not had a massive fan base in the United States. So having that fight be shown stateside, it's totally implausible they could get that money back. So what my theory is, and it's a bit of a two-part answer, was that I think they were offering more and more money with these overblown contracts that are totally fair for a change, which they never offer Arum. There's always something in the details that kind of nobody would ever take their offer. But in this case, I think the issue at hand is that Arum would have had to have ditched HBO and gone for Golden Boys. They use Showtime to show their fights on pay-per-view. So I think that what they were betting on was the bigger the offer, the worse it would make Arum look because he could not sacrifice his relationship with HBO and thus lose the much bigger fights that HBO has that are, $50 million or whatever for Pacquiao. So in that case, $3 million would not be a lot of money, $3 or $5 million. So I think the more money they were offering, they knew he couldn't in any way harm his relationship with HBO. But as of yesterday, they said you can have HBO work in partnership with Showtime. So there goes that theory. And I don't know how else to explain why Arum would turn away this money other than he just doesn't want to deal with them.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Let's talk about if this $1 million payday with Rigondeaux goes down. Again, the fight, not exactly official. You have to tie up some loose ends. But if it occurs, how much of that is he going to keep? I mean, obviously there's the Obama tax plan, but then there's the handlers, the trainers, other people outside. I mean, how much money would he walk away with the $1 million? How much would be his?
Well, let's say he loses a third to management. Well, I mean, it'd probably be closer to 40% when you factor in management, his trainer, his strength and conditioning coach. Then you have to factor in he is responsible for paying for the training camp, for looking after the people involved in his training camp. So what's that? Another 5%, 7%? Taxes take another 30 odd percent away. So I mean, I would say he'd be looking at maybe clearing 400,000, 350, 400,000 out of $1 million.
Not bad. Not bad for a boxer, I suppose. Now, he still has his family in Cuba. Would he send the money back? Would he try to arrange for them to come? That might be the type of money where he can start to pay some people off, bribe some people to get his family from Cuba. You know him pretty well. What do you think he would do with the money?
Having met his wife and kids, the wife was pretty adamant that he was sending money back. Their son was in front of her as she was telling me this, so I don't think that even if it weren't true that she would tell the truth in that context. But my sense is he probably is sending something back, which is a difficult thing. But then again, as of a week ago, the very famous Cuban baseball player Contreras just went back to Cuba after 10 years of being a very famous defector. And was playing baseball, a pickup game on a field in Havana. So maybe there's hope that Rigondeaux can have a kind of a different dynamic in terms of what his future could be, going back or maybe freeing up his family. But he was very adamant to me that he would not take his family out of Cuba.
Okay, so at this point the plan is for the family to stay. Obviously, your movie split decision about Rigondeaux. Do you maybe hold off on the film being finished to document this fight because this would be the biggest fight of his career. If he wins, he's at a whole other level of stardom, even if he doesn't have the most popular boxing style. So have you thought film-wise about maybe changing some plans based on this announcement?
No, for me, I probably will not have access to Rigondeaux any longer as far as the film is concerned. So my sense is I would cover the story as a journalist. ESPN approached me about writing a profile on him. But my film was much more about the kind of theme of why did the great Cuban boxers turn down the money, and then Rigo was the first major one who took the money and left. So it became kind of a broader trajectory than just a biography on Rigondeaux, which was my initial intention with it. But basically with Teofilo Stevenson's death and some of the younger fighters in Cuba, that's the direction I went, is looking at the big arc of from the 1970s to present day and tomorrow, what this choice means for these boxers and by extension Cubans about staying or leaving.
All right, so interesting. So at this point, it won't affect the film. Obviously, though, if he wins, it puts your film more attention, more prestige, because now you've done a documentary about a guy who beat Donaire. So obviously you'll be rooting it hard, as I will for Guillermo to win. No offense to the Donaire fans. Let's talk about that ESPN article. When are the plans for that to come out? And is the interest because of this fight with Donaire, or were they want you to write this article anyways because this story with Guillermo is just so fascinating, the defecting, being champion, all this kind of stuff. So talk a little bit about the background of the article.
Well, I think it's just that I think the big question mark associated with Cuban boxers is obviously they've done a real number on the rest of the world in international amateur competition, and there's been some unfair slander of them saying, they're fighting at 28 years old against 18-year-olds. That's not true because all the Cuban greats won their first medal at the same time all the American greats won their medals. They're winning them at 18, 19, 20 years old, and then they come back at 24 and do the same thing. So I think Rigondeaux being matched against the best professional fighter in his weight class provides kind of a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it offers an opportunity to prove that the Cubans are as good as some people think they would have been had they turned professional. If Stevenson had left and fought Ali, or if Tyson had left and fought Sabone. Sabone left and fought Tyson. So it could be a real statement, not just for his career, but for all Cubans who turned down the money, that they could have been just as dominant as professionals as they were as amateurs.
Now, I want you to elaborate a little more about that potential Tyson opponent that never occurred, because Ali Stevenson, we've talked about that. Stevenson might have been able to beat Ali. He was a lot bigger. I believe he was 6'7", and he was offered more money, I think, than George Foreman. Talk about the Tyson opponent who was going to come from Cuba and fight him and his chances to beat Iron Mike.
Well, Felix Sabone arguably is the most decorated amateur boxer in history. Rigondeaux, obviously, his career was ended at 24 after his attempt at defection. I mean, he didn't have a chance to have the kind of career that Stevenson and Sabone did, fighting until their early 30s. But Sabone, to me, is a lot like a Lennox Lewis. He was just a hell of a lot more agile. If you look at many of the fighters who went on to have quite distinguished careers as professionals, say David Tua, for example, was a brutal heavyweight who decimated the likes of
John Ruiz
and I mean Michael Moore. He knocked out in 30 seconds. Moore, who beat Holyfield, and Sabone knocked Tua out in, I think, 45 seconds. Or a minute. The fight was stopped. Sabone absolutely obliterated Shannon Briggs, who was a two-time world champion.
And who beat George Foreman, although that decision is controversial, but you get an idea of where he's at.
Sabone was somebody who from 1985 until 2000 won every single competition. I think he had one silver medal between 1985 and 2000, to give you an idea of his dominance. There just wasn't anything he wasn't competing for where he was just, annihilating the competition. 6'5", he would get down to 200 pounds on occasion to compete. I mean, his physique alone, of all the athletes I've ever even seen live, I don't think I've ever seen a specimen on par with Sabone, rather. I mean, Sabone was like kind of what the basketball player on LeBron James is like as a basketball player. He was just freakishly large, strong, and agile, just a heavyweight of the future. Back in, 85, he was a freak.
Again, incredible, because there's so many, and that's one of the great things about your film is that you're talking about these athletes that sadly there kind of never was. I mean, they're heard of. People know about them, but to see that fight against Tyson, or to see Stevenson against Ali, but we are seeing Rigondeaux, so we do get a taste of these great Cuban fighters, and we get, perhaps down the road, we'll get more and more and more. Now, also your film talks about how Rigondeaux kind of needs to, or feels like, keeping up with the Joneses, buying the fancy cars, spending money on things. If he gets this fight with Donaire, clears $400,000, would you be concerned that he might blow this money? Sure, he'll send some back to his family, but maybe he'll buy something he doesn't need instead of putting in the bank, investing it. This
Absolutely.
Type of thing. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the stereotype holds up with almost every professional athlete in terms of them being, really taken advantage of, and just assuming that whatever money they have in hand is going to be a consistent source of revenue. And of course, they seem to be the last people to know when their career is up. And then they're forced to take fights where, brain damage is a risk of happening. There are very few fighters that you can care about who are not going to come to quite a sad, bitter ending to their career. I mean, even all the best ones. And you think of all left the game far too late and damaged. And that's the best ones, let alone the people who are, the middle tier and lower tier guys. There's a good little short film I just watched called I Beat Mike Tyson about Kevin McBride. And there he's being knocked out of the sport, concussed in front of his, wife and kids, and taken out on a stretcher. And even though he wasn't fighting anybody, he was a fairly dominant, just big, slow guy. But he was saying that he can't even talk to his children. He's aware that brain damage has impaired his ability just to have a basic conversation with a young child. And this is very, very common. This is boxing. It seems like all the sports where, if you're heading a soccer ball, or as we're seeing with football, brain damage is really common with what these guys are doing.
Yeah, we had on Shlomo Weingrad, who used to play for the Dallas Cowboys, and we've talked about the injuries that football players suffer, still deal with 15, 20 years after their careers. And it really sheds light, because people just see the glory. They see the knockout, they see the tackle, the sack, the touchdown. They don't see all this pain. Do you think at some point the powers that be will try to fix this situation, or will they say, hey, it's not me getting hurt, I don't really care, I'm making money, what is it to me?
Oh, I as long as there's money in it, I don't think people will care. You look at the gun issue in this country, you can't even call it a health issue of people being at risk with them, because there's so much money to be made. There's more guns being sold now as a result of that school shooting than before. So these people are very shrewd at their business handling, and boxing has always been run by quite an evil element that's operating as parasites on these boxers themselves. And it's the fighters who walk away brutalized, not the promoters, not the managers. They're all rich to begin with to get involved with the sport, but the fighters come from nothing, and most of the time they end up going back to their neighborhoods with nothing.
What do you say? Wait, gun sales have gone up since the shooting in Connecticut, the school shooting?
Absolutely, they've gone up. If you look at gun sales right now for the kind of assault weapons that are being pushed now for, curtailing availability, those gun sales have gone up because people are afraid they'll be taken away, so they want to stock up now.
Wow. Scary stuff. We're speaking with Brin-Jonathan Butler, the director of Split Decision. A few more minutes with Brin. That wow, we'll have to talk more about that another time, maybe on Facebook. I did not realize that, but thank you for shedding light on that. Let's talk about a bit of I don't know if this is a controversial issue, but boxing versus MMA. I understand that you've been receiving some flack. Is that correct? Of some things you've been writing about. Shed us some light of the latest of the rivalry between boxing and MMA.
Well, I published an article recently on SB Nation about the Wall Street boxing trainer Eric Kelly, whose video went viral, Boxing Lessons with Eric Kelly. There was two very brief comments I made about MMA in contrast to boxing, which was to say that boxing has always kind of, I think its major traction with fans of it, and when it had a broader fan base than just, boxing fans, sports fans, but it was a major kind of event in society, in American society. Joe Louis, during the time where the Nazis were hailing blacks as not being equal to whites, Joe Louis made a real statement about that and knocking out the German world champion at that time.
XLVII, yes, correct, right.
So all I said in regard to MMA, and it wasn't a judgment evaluation of the quality of the product. Sorry about all this noise.
No problem. So basically, yeah, go ahead.
I just said that in regard to boxing MMA, personal narrative is a major part of, and always has been, of the boxers, whereas in MMA, you don't really have any personal narratives. MMA has never really, its draw with fans has never really been about the narrative of the people competing in the sport. And I didn't expand beyond that, except to say, if you look at, say, Chuck Liddell, what in his personal narrative, if you were talking to a casual fan and you were trying to describe Chuck Liddell, would you use to describe him other than saying the guy has a mohawk? I don't know anything in his story that rivals his choice of haircut. And, with a fighter that I greatly admire, with Anderson Silva, how would I describe him to somebody who's never seen him before? Beyond saying, yes, he's a phenomenal fighter, but he also does a very silly kind of Brazilian dance for every victory to sort of mock his opponents. And I don't know anything else about the guy. And that's really something when he's the top draw in the sport.
Right. That's a great point. I mean, because Anderson Silva could be the best ever at UFC. He's never lost in UFC, and even when it looks like he's going to lose, he wins, and we don't know that much about him. That's an excellent point. So basically, people have been giving you flack or been criticizing your points on this matter?
The comment section of the article, which was intriguing to me, because as I say, just all I said was that personal narrative hasn't been a big part of it. And the other was that John McCain, several years ago, in trying to maintain that MMA would be illegal in the United States, referred to it as human cockfighting. Now, I didn't say that was my take on it, but what I do see as a similarity between cockfighting and MMA is if you compared cockfighting to something like bullfighting, one of the immediate things that jumps out at you is bullfighting, you have bulls and matadors who are singled out for achievement. There are, again, personal narratives in bullfighting that is part of the draw for people who are fans of that spectacle. I don't call it a sport because bullfighting isn't a sport. It's a tragedy. The bull has no chance to win. But
right, that's right. It's not a sport if the guy can't win. That's a good point.
Whereas in cockfighting, I have never heard of the great cock who was, a tremendous battler in fighting. It's just the violence that's generated and the money that's involved or the competition. But there is no great breeding line of cocks that's known for something that I've ever heard of. In all the literature that's ever been written about, why it should be abolished or anything, I've never stumbled upon any individual fighting cock who was singled out. And I think that's similar in this case to MMA. MMA is always talked about as a general thing. The specific fighters are very rarely discussed by people who are not diehard fans of the sport. And maybe that's a result of the way it's been promoted, or that doesn't have a very long history, but I think it's still a salient point about what differentiates it from other sports, where personal narrative is integral to the popularity and the quality of the product.
Great stuff. Excellent point all the way around. Boxing versus MMA, the gun sales going up after the shooting in Connecticut. Scary to think about, but thank you for bringing that up. And, of course, Regano versus Donaire. Hopefully that fight does take place. Regano hopefully gets the biggest payday of his career, gets $1 million, maybe clears $400,000. Brin, we got to run. It's almost midnight here. Always a pleasure. Congratulations on ESPN contacting you. We look forward to seeing that. We look forward to seeing the film, of course, and hopefully Regano's victory against Donaire. Thank you so much for being on Lewis Live on Israel Sports Radio.
My pleasure.
Be well, Brin. We'll speak with you soon.
Take care.
All right, Brin-Jonathan Butler, great stuff as always. As I say, he is one of the most entertaining, informative interviews I've had ever. I've interviewed 5,000 people or so at this point, 5,000 interviews, I believe, and it just really doesn't get that much better than Brin. So we appreciate his time. We know he's very busy with the ESPN article, with the film, because not only is he the director, he is in charge kind of everything. Financing, setting things up. You could really say the producer as well. So excellent stuff. Check out, you get a chance. Don't do it right now because I'm about to end the show. But right when the show ends, check out Guillermo. Wikipedia him. You can Google first to get the spelling right, then Wikipedia him. You'll find out he's had one of the best amateur careers in boxing history. You can also YouTube Split Decision, and you'll get up a great trailer that will give you more information about Guillermo Regando, because this guy, as Brin talked about, missed out on Stevenson. We missed out on a lot of Cuban fighters that you've never heard of because they did not leave Cuba. Guillermo took the risk, made it, was able to defect, and here he is champion at the 122-pound weight class. Could fight Donaire, could make $1 million. So great stuff as always. Folks, that's the end of our show. This show has been absolutely tremendous. I appreciate everyone listening in, chatting in, tuning in, and whether you're on Winter Radio or on TuneIn, thank you so much. Let's thank everyone who's come on the show. Andy Gershman, the author of Modern Day Maccabees, who says that he broke the story to me that apparently the Yankees will try to retrieve the money, they will try to void out Alex Rodriguez's contract and save $100 million. Pete Shepard from WEEI, who does not like when players say God help them win and cause the other guy to lose. It's always a controversial topic when you talk about religion and sports. Obviously I believe in God, and this is Jerusalem, and this is from Israel. I don't know how comfortable I feel saying if I beat someone in a game that God wanted the other guy to lose. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a great topic. But we appreciate Pete Shepard, Pizza Legend from WEEI in Boston. Aaron Krolik, the host of Monday Afternoon Quarterback on Tuesday evenings, has done a great job for the last 6 months hosting his own show on this station, and we appreciate Aaron's insights into the NFL. The lovely and talented two-time Israeli skating champion Tamar Katz, she set up this thing called Medal Journey, which is like Kickstarter for Olympic athletes who are trying to make their way and get their medals and all that good stuff. The money would go to training and living expenses. Jerry Coleman from The Fan in Baltimore, CBS Sports, there on the ground on Bourbon Street, working very hard, saying that he believes Ray Lewis is innocent of deer antler charges. Radio Mike from Kew Garden Hills, who does not like Alex Rodriguez and will be happy to see him go, says not only is he not such a good ball player anymore, but he's not even a good human being with all the different things he's done. Alan Shlomo Weingrad at 9 p.m., giving us so much light on what it's like for an NFL player behind the scenes, away from the limelight, in retirement, and all the different struggles they have to go with and go through. John Sharon, head coach of the Tel-Aviv Sabres, talking about his 7-0 ball club could be the best team he's ever coached, and he's coached 2 teams to a championship. At 10 p.m., we had on Dmitriy Salita, who sadly talked about his fight being delayed. due to the top of the card that he was on, suffering an injury. Hopefully he'll get to fight Hector Camacho Jr. in a few months and eventually get a title shot. Hopefully me and Dmitriy meet in Israel. 10:30 p.m. we had running back from the Tel-Aviv Sabres, Brandon McDougal, who talked about sharing the backfield with Corey Zinker and talked about taking on a great team in the Hammers in a couple of weeks. 11 p.m., Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, 7-time Emmy Award winner, took me down memory lane by talking about Stan Musial and what a great ball player he was and probably even a better person. And we finished things up with the director of Split Decision, Brin-Jonathan Butler, who says the Guillermo Donaire fight is on in a few months at Madison Square Garden. Stay tuned for more programming throughout Israel Sports Radio and a lot of great stuff. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.